think I'm audible, so welcome to the session. It's great still to see some people here. We were actually a little bit afraid that we are alone here so closely before the end of this ALM Summit. So my name is Sirk, and together with my colleague Mirko, we are going to talk today about the topic of clean core, specifically with the focus on extensibility. And what we are going to talk about is at the beginning some theory that I think is quite important also to understand why we are talking about extensions, but then we also want to show something what we have in our system, in our Rise of SAP methodology dashboard specifically, where you can also then see metrics and KPIs with regards to extensions. And we will show, or Mirko is then going to show also the functionality that we are going to release or plan to release next week, Wednesday. So stay tuned for that, and we will also finish then with an outlook on additional capabilities that we are planning. So let's start with some basic information, I would say. So clean core, I mean, it's a topic, it's a buzzword that is used everywhere quite often, same like AI. I think we also on that side have both now in place. Why are we talking about that? Why it is so important? So we are 100% sure that when companies are going to a more clean core compliant system, we are helping them also to be more agile. What does this mean? So when you are going more to standard processes, it's quite obvious, of course, that you are then able to adopt them much faster than non-standard processes. But this doesn't mean that you cannot do something without extensions. So for your differentiating processes, it's still fine to do there some extensions where your S4 system, for example, is not behaving or not providing the capabilities that you require. And what's also always important is the data quality. So we know whenever you are using bad data, you also then have bad decisions that you're doing out of that. So that's why also data quality is a very important topic. So with a more clean core compliant system then also, we are unlocking also new innovations. What does it mean? The upgrade or update events will be much faster than beforehand. So it will, the more you go to a clean core compliant system, the efforts for the upgrade, they will definitely getting lower and lower. And with that, you have then the possibility to foster then the new innovations that we are delivering. And now the next buzzword, like the business AI capabilities that are available. And the last point is, the closer to a clean core compliant system you are with your S4 system, also the better it is from an operations perspective. Because the more you are closer to the standard, then we are offering already the related operation capabilities, and we are also reducing all the risks with regards, for example, to cyber security. So that is the reason why we are talking about clean core. So clean core itself consists of 5 different principles, or also sometimes called dimensions, which are also interacting with each other. So processes, I already mentioned that, using standard processes, extensibility to remove actually or decouple extensions from the standard core, data, having the data lean, having a good data quality, and integration that you're also taking standard integrations wherever it is possible to be with your landscape as reliable as possible. And all of that is supported with the operations, so to really keep the operations as efficient and effective as possible. And as said, we want to talk today about extensibility in particular. During the ALM Summit itself, we already presented the dashboard in a demo booth. Unfortunately, there's now also a demo booth for the data part happening in parallel, but yeah, it is like it is. And yes, as said, extensibility is now the focus. So let's say in an ideal world, you would actually skip all extensions. So you're not modifying your system, you're not doing any extensions, and everything would be good. But this is just a theory, which is actually, of course, not matching the reality. So we see that customers are doing extensions, and it's also okay to do extensions. This is the clear statement. So we don't want to force you to be without any extensions. But you should do it in a good way. You should do it in a cloud-ready way. We are talking there about on-stack extensions that you actually can do with ABAP Cloud. And you can also do it together with the SAP BTP with side-by-side extensions. And it's also important to have a certain governance process in place so that we are also receiving all the requirements from your business and make then educated decisions whether this is really something that needs to be done, that needs to be developed in the system, and then also forcing with the knowledge for of your developers that they are doing it in a cloud-compliant way. That's the idea behind. So now, extensions, was always in place that customers could do it, customers could modify their system, and we had also an extensibility model in place now for a long time. And this extensibility model, or three-tier model, which was a name for this, has been recently revised. So it was back in August where it has been launched. And we want to quickly explain also from where we were coming, why we were changing it, and then building the bridge then also to our WISE dashboard. So the three-tier extensibility model. You can do extensions on stack in your S4 system. You can do extensions on the BTP with side-by-side extensibility. So everything that you do on stack with ABAP Cloud is tier 1, and as you can see it also from the colors that are giving here, it's green. So that's really the best thing that you actually can do. The same, the cloud development on BTP with ABAP Cloud, Java, Node.js, and so on. This is also the best thing that you can do. We had a tier 2, which is the Cloud API enablement. So for everything where we're not providing released APIs, for example, you can build up your own wrappers around this, and then maybe wait for SAP to provide you then these APIs, and then you would remove the wrapper as soon as the released APIs are in place. And then we had one big bucket, and this was tier 3, the classical ABAP development. So here we had everything that you have done on the S4 system. And of course, then we as SAP were also saying for tier 3, try to retire it if you're not using the custom code, try to renovate it, move it to tier 1 extensions wherever it's possible, but also in the tier 3, let's say, bin, you can also adapt and make it better. But you could actually already see in tier 3, this is marked as red. Everything that was done in tier 3 was seen as bad. So we had just a black and white, because we had just the very good one, the very bad one. In the middle, a little bit is tier 2, but this was not actually used by the customers in a good way, received by the customers in the past. So that's why we are saying, okay, we need to extend this now from a tier 3 concept to the so-called level concept. So we wanted actually to break up this last bucket with tier 3 extensions more, and this is where now these level A, B, C, and D come into the game. So taking the existing one, and then kind of energy label that we are using now for extensions with level A, B, C, and D. And as for your fridge, for your television, A is the very best thing, B is also still good, C is conditionally good, and D is the bad part. And we are not using green and red anymore, we just now use different shades of blue. So everything that is still in ABAP Cloud and the side-by-side development, this is still level A, so the very best thing that you can actually do. And everything that you're now doing on top with the extensions in the on stack with classic ABAP, this can now be also Clean Core compliant. If you are using classic SAP extension points, if you are using classic SAP APIs, these are the things that we are actually recommending you. There's also this cloudification repository viewer in place where you can check for those classic APIs. So these are the things that are now something where I would say you don't need to focus on first when you're talking about whether you want to get better with regards to extensibility, because A and B, that's as said, Clean Core compliant. Level C is when you're using internal SAP objects, which are not officially released. Here, we see them as conditionally compliant. We are seeing it conditionally compliant when you are activating then also the changelog. So when you're planning then the next upgrade, you can check also upfront whether those kind of objects are actually changed during the upgrade, and then you can take care of them before you are running into the upgrade. And level D is in all where we're talking about implicit enhancement points that we're doing when you're modifying SAP objects, where you're directly writing into SAP tables. This is definitely the part with the highest risks, which is not upgrade stable, not recommended, and that's the poorest part of your extensions or of your extensibility, and there you should actually focus on first. So that's just about the theory, and now handing over then to Mirko, who's then talking about the measurability, because you as a customer, of course, you also want to understand how good or how bad are we with regards to this dimension. So Mirko, over to you.
Thanks, Jörg, and welcome everybody, also from my side. Yeah, as Jörg already mentioned, so when we came up with these entire clean core topics, the question from the customer side quickly came, how can I find out where I stand, how clean core compliant I am already, and whether the measures that I take in order to clean up my systems really have the effect that I desire. And to that end, our Clean Core Business Office came up with what they call Clean Core Measurement Framework. And as you can see on the slide, this measurement framework consists of basically two parts. So on the left-hand side, you would then see the governance and maturity aspects. So that's not a technical view on Clean Core, but rather an organizational thing. And there we would, for example, change whether the customer has already established some governance, whether solution standardization board is in place, and things like that. So that would be checked based on so-called quality gates and using questionnaires, something like that, to get a better feeling of where the customer stands there. That's also done on a regular basis and not a one-time activity. And on the right side of the slide, you can see the KPI part. So that's where we are really measuring based on several data sources and from a technical point of view, how clean core compliant a system or several systems are. As you can see there, when it comes to the governance maturity part, that's reflected, as I said, based on Q gates, which also end up in the RISE dashboard, and the KPIs are also part of the dashboard, which I will show you also in a live demo in a minute. So as we focus on the dimension of extensibility today, I just want to give you a quick overview of the KPIs that we've defined so far, and which you will also find then in the dashboard. So starting with something we call Clean Core Share, and that's actually the idea to showcase how your custom objects are divided over the different levels that Jörg has just explained. Then we have an unused code share, so that's one KPI that was heavily demanded by our customers because they actually want to know which portion of the custom code they have in the system is actually not even used, and therefore it doesn't make sense to keep it in the system. So third thing is the technical depth score. So that's really actually on the object level to find out how heavy the technical burden that you have in the system is there. We aggregate that to give you an overall impression per system and tell you, as I just said, how heavy the technical depth is in the system. And last but not least, we have the business modifications, so that's really the bad stuff, which you definitely should avoid in the future, but where you also should get rid of when it comes to the things you have in the system. So this is really all about those things where you modified the SAP standard. Jörg already explained the governance part, and to cut it short, we actually have two notions there. So one would be get clean, and the other stay clean, as you can see on the slide. When it comes to getting clean, it's about not only measuring the technical depth, but also setting ambitious but still realistic goals in order to reduce the technical burden over time. And then we have the stay clean part, which is really tightly bound to the governance aspect. So it's definitely necessary that you establish a governance and that you only allow enhancements where it makes sense, and that you also keep track of which extensibility option you choose. And as also mentioned there, generally speaking, you should avoid extensions where possible, but as Jörg also pointed out, extensions are not necessarily a bad thing. They are required in many cases, but if you go for them, do it the right way. We've also brought an example for the get clean notion. That's just an example how you could structure your journey in that case. As you can see, there's a baseline at the beginning, because we know all of the customers have some technical debt in the system. They have their legacy, and that's just a fact, and that will not disappear overnight. So based from that, you should define that everything that's done in the future is done in a clean core compliant manner in order to not even increase the technical debt. And in parallel to that, we highly recommend to set the mentioned targets to constantly reduce the technical debt that you have. So as shown in this example here, you might say, I want to reduce my technical debt by 10% each year. So that's just how we envision that to help you clean up the system. Okay, so now let's take a closer look at the RISE with SAP methodology dashboard and how we bring those KPIs that we've just explained to life. And to that end, I would like to give you a quick live demo in the system. So hopefully everybody of you recognizes that I'm on the launchpad of Cloud ALM. And as you can see here, there is the RISE with SAP part, which contains our dashboard. So I click on that, and we currently have two views, the operations view and the system view. When it comes to the KPIs that I've just shown you, you would find them in the system view. So I click on that, which takes me to the next screen, where I first of all have to select from the eligible systems. So there's just this drop-down, which gives me all the S/4HANA systems related to this RISE contract. And as you can see here as well, we do not restrict that to productive systems, but we also consider test and development systems. So for the sake of the demo, just let me choose this production system. And here we have, first of all, some general system-related information. We then give you more insights about the software stack as such, just to tell you whether you are up to date or whether it's highly recommended to do an upgrade or whether you are even out of maintenance. And connected to that, we also indicate whether your system is innovation ready and security compliant. We are also able to incorporate a summary of the most important readiness check results. So here you would find some information regarding simplification items or custom code findings. When it comes to the clean core tool status, that's basically a summary of the data sources that we rely on. And the cards that you can see on the dashboard just tell you whether everything is up and running, whether the data sources are in good shape, and whether we have everything we need in order to collect the data to populate the KPIs. And now comes the really interesting part, and that's something which is still not yet available if you would look at your system, but what we are planning for the end of the month. We now have an additional card in the tool status section, which is related to ATC, ABAP Test Cockpit. And this card allows you to import an ATC check results file, which you will then use as a data source and as a basis to showcase, for example, the clean core share that I've mentioned on the slide before. I'll quickly show you how that is done. So as you can see here, there's just an import file button, which takes you to a selection screen. So you can then just find the ATC check results file that you've downloaded to your machine. And once I select that and open it, you can see that the file import is started. You can see that it's still uploading. What you can also do is to check whether an import failed. And in this case, it will fail because what we did is that we have a check that verifies whether the file that you selected fits the system that you selected on the screen before. So as you can see here, we are now in system CAA, and since I selected an import file which is related or which comes from another system, the import fails. After the import has successfully been run, you would then find a nice graphical representation of the individual levels and how the custom code objects are distributed over these levels. And we do that in a twofold way. So first of all, we have the stacked bar chart where you can see per month what the distribution looks like. And underneath, we have then individual cards per level in order to show you how many objects that are. And we also consider a 3-month trend in order to indicate whether the number increased or decreased. And on top of that, we have the other KPIs that I've mentioned at the beginning. So we have the technical debt score, which is a weighted score. So in this case, the higher the score, the worse your situation. We have the unused customer objects that I mentioned, both as a percentage and in absolute numbers. And we have the execution of customer objects. So the idea behind that is to set the number of custom objects in relation to the overall number of executable objects to indicate how much you rely on your custom code and how big the potential risk is that you run during an upgrade. And last but not least, we have the business modification as a separate card, although business modifications are also part of level D, but level D also contains more things that you should avoid, such as writing access to SAP tables. So yeah, that's what you can expect towards the end of the month, and that's our approach to reflect the newly introduced level concept, and this should definitely help our customers to better identify where they start their cleaning activities. All right, so then let me go back to the slide deck. So this, again, is just an overview of the KPIs that you've already heard of now. Why I want to show that again is just to tell you that we rely on different data sources, because the ATC check that you can use as an import file just considers findings. So whenever something is not the ideal word. So generally speaking, levels B, C, and D. But since we also wanted to show all the level A objects, we had to come up with another approach, and this is therefore relying on data coming from custom code analytics. And you can see here on this graphical representation how the individual KPIs are fed by the different data sources in order to show you where you are in the RISE dashboard. Okay, so as promised by Jörg, we also want to give you a quick outlook, what you can still expect over the upcoming month and quarters. And yeah, therefore, we brought our roadmap. So currently, we are in Q4, and this grouping of extensibility is exactly what I've just shown you. So that's really the division over the different buckets, as we call it, or the levels. We will also include a summary from the governance and maturity assessment, which I've shown you on the measurement framework slide. In Q1 next year, we will provide a deep dive dashboard for extensibility. So I've actually mainly highlighted everything that's related to extensibility on this slide, which would then be your way to make the findings that you have in the dashboard more actionable. So instead of just ensuring transparency with the dashboard, we also want to help you take the right measures. And when you see all the information regarding clean code share and so on, you also want to know what are the actual technical objects behind that. And that's what the deep dive dashboard will allow you to do. So you would then go down to the object level, find further information about object types, the references that you have, and things like that. So on top of that, we will also have an aggregated summary in an executive view. So that will then be a new and different view compared to the ones that we already have. And that's also a view that addresses another target group. So as the name suggests, it's really addressing executives who are usually asking other questions compared to, for example, project managers or developers. And yeah, in Q2 next year, we will come up with a couple of other enhancements of the dashboard, for example, related to an analytics API and a landscape view, which will then be on top of the views that we already have. And as you hopefully know, we will anyway continuously enhance the dashboard, also based on the customer feedback that we receive. And therefore, I would like to encourage all of you to join our customer engagement initiative. So we will find the link in the slide deck. The registration is open until November 15th. And I think that's really a very nice opportunity to, on the one hand side, be early informed about what we are planning, to get fresh insights of what we have in the pipeline, but also to provide you feedback and eventually influence the product, so namely the RISE dashboard. So yeah, as you've probably heard throughout all the other sessions as well, we would be happy if you would provide your feedback regarding this session using the event app. And If there are still questions or anything you would like to know or discuss about the dashboard, you will find us outside. So we just discussed that we will not do that on stage because that's a bit cumbersome as we can hardly hear you. But you will find us in front of the door of this room, and we are happy, to get in touch with you and answer your questions. Having said that, thanks everybody, and enjoy the rest of the summit.